Ladies and gentlemen, we are through October, we are through November, we are more than a quarter of the way through the season, and the New York Rangers have still not lost consecutive games. Wow.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 951 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And that song you're hearing right now, whether you are listening on audio or watching on YouTube, is indeed Leave the Lights On from our good friends in Passafire. You can check those guys out anywhere you get your music, and was able to kind of figure this out. And by popular demand, the song has indeed returned. But today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So another excellent win for the New York Rangers. They weren't always at their best in this game, kind of took a nap in the second period, but for the most part, a strong effort. They came out flying in the first period. Couple of scoring opportunities that didn't really go their way, which was kind of getting away from the norm from the Rangers. A lack of finish has not been an issue at all this season, the way we've seen in other seasons. That kind of was there in this game, but they finished enough of their opportunities to win this game 3-2, and just an excellent rally in the third period, down by a goal, scoring twice, including a late goal by Jimmy Vesey, who remains hot, giving the Rangers some depth scoring and just playing his brand of gritty hockey every single night. Can't say enough about the job that Jimmy Vesey has done. So he comes up clutch and basically stakes his claim as maybe the best fourth liner in the NHL. I tweeted that out last night. And, at first it's like, maybe this is an exaggeration, but at the same time, maybe not. I mean, show me a fourth liner in the NHL right now who's doing as good of a job for his team as Jimmy Vesey is doing for the New York Rangers. So you got that. You've also got the big return of Adam Fox. I thought he looked good in his first game back. He didn't get quite as much ice time as he typically would, but that was to be expected, I think. And we'll obviously talk a little bit about Fox's performance a little bit later in today's episode. We've also got Igor Shesterkin coming up clutch with 25 saves on 27 shots. And as I mentioned, the Rangers took a little bit of a nap in the second period there, but they lived to tell about it. They were at their best when they needed to be, and that's what good teams do. So just a really, really solid win, very exciting win, 3-2 over the Detroit Red Wings. And we got a lot to do today, but I want to kind of take it from the top here and not bury the lead. Let's go ahead and talk about the Rangers rallying in the third period, down 2-1, coming back for 2 goals in the third stanza, and winning the game 3-2. And also of note here, going into the third period, the Detroit Red Wings this season, 9-1 when they have a lead. That is now, of course, 9-2. Again, just a really nice comeback win for the Rangers. So I want to begin by breaking down the goal by K'Andre Miller. This happened almost exactly midway through the second period. There was 10:46 to go when Miller scored, but you got the Rangers in the offensive zone, and they're starting to buzz a little bit. They're pushing hard. They're looking for that equalizer. And Mika Zibanejad is unable to handle a pass that I think most times he would be able to handle. But Jacob Trouba, Johnny on the spot here. It goes past Mika, but Trouba's there. He gets the puck and sends it back to Mika Zibanejad. So he gives Mika a second chance, and Mika takes advantage of it. He's along the left side there. He moves toward the net, and then he makes a pass across the ice to Miller for the one-timer. Miller scores 2-2 with 10:46 to go. And for all the nice saves that Husso made on this night, this one was one you would almost expect him to come up with. But by that same token, there's a blistering shot by K'Andre Miller. We've talked about in the past on this podcast the idea of maybe Miller shooting the puck a little bit more often. You don't want to let a blistering slap shot like he has go to waste. Of course, he used to be a winger, and that slap shot has not gone anywhere, and he's still able to do that, as a defenseman as well. So Miller coming up clutch, tying the game about midway through the second period. We did have a little bit of a scare on the following shift because there was a grade A chance for Alex DeBrincat He was left open pretty much in front of the net, received a pass. Igor Shesterkin with the point-blank save there. And that's becoming something of an issue. We saw that a couple of times in this game. The shift after a goal, the Rangers not being sharp. That's something we're going to elaborate on a little bit later in today's episode. But this game continues here. It's still 2-2, getting a little bit later in the third period. Igor makes another great sliding save after Lucas Raymond received a pass from Comfer, basically a short pass right across the top of the goal crease there, and Igor slides to his left, one of his better saves on the evening. And then we have Will Cooley, controversial play here. He initially gets called for a penalty for high-sticking Lucas Raymond. There was blood, and when that happens, it's not just going to be the 2 minutes, it's going to be the 4 minutes. This occurred with 14:27 to go. So this is actually before the Rangers tied the game. So we're going to backtrack a little bit here for this one. Basically what happened on this one, it looked like the high stick, but then you hear the crowd. I think they saw the replay before we did. You heard them reacting to it and kind of groaning and booing. And what they saw is what we all saw then on the broadcast, and that is that Lucas Raymond grabbed Will Cooley's stick on the play and basically pulled it up into his own face. Now, I don't know for sure if he did that on purpose, the part about pulling it up into his own face. I can't say for sure one way or the other. It looked to me like he just grabbed his stick and was trying to get free of him and be able to play the puck. I have no idea if there was, you got to be a madman to do that, to pull somebody's stick into your own face and make yourself bleed to try to get the power play. So they initially do call the double minor on Cooley, but they reviewed it. And that was kind of a theme in this game. A couple of reviews finally going the Rangers' way, and the officials saw it. And they said, okay, no penalty because, and these are the officials' words, not mine. He said that the player grabbed the stick. That was what the official said. So my question now, and I know beggars can't be choosers. One of you guys tweeted at me on social media. If the officials get it half right, you got to pretty much accept that. So they got the part right that it should not be a penalty at all against Will Cooley, much less a double minor. But my question here is, if they ruled, and again, they said this, these are their words, the officials' words, not my words. If they ruled that Lucas Raymond grabbed Will Cooley's stick, then how is that not a holding penalty against Lucas Raymond? Why is he not in the penalty box? Like, I know he was bleeding and everything, but you can't really feel sorry for him. He literally said that he grabbed the stick, which is a penalty. So I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things you can't review it in the other direction. You can't take a penalty away from the Rangers and give one to the Red Wings. I don't know. All this stuff is so nuanced, and there are times where it feels like they kind of just make it up as they go along. But anyway, the game continues. Still 2-2 at this point. The Rangers by this point had tied the game. And Alexis Lafreniere, great game, 2 assists, took a penalty that you just cannot take in a situation like this in the game, based on what the score is, based on how little time was left, and based on the fact that the puck was deep in Detroit's zone. And as this was happening, I could kind of see it developing because he's chasing the Detroit, puck carrier. And I'm saying out loud, I swear to God, I said this. I said, careful, because I could see Lafreniere kind of reaching for him, and he hooked him, and that's a penalty. So again, Lafreniere, can't say enough about the job he's done this season, not just giving them secondary scoring, but one of the driving forces why the Rangers are off to the start that they're off to. But he takes a bad penalty here. Detroit to the power play with 6:31 left. Then you had Chris Kreider exploding for a shorthanded breakaway, not able to convert, and he actually kind of wiped out into the net. So for a while, at least a couple of seconds there, Detroit's basically got a 5-on-3 because, Kreider's still getting back up and trying to get back on defense. But the Rangers were able to hold up there. They get a clear. And then, after they finally, and by the way, the clears by Bonino and Lindgren, we got to shout the two of them out because they were doing great work on the penalty kill all night. Then we get the Rangers, they get the kill. And the game winner here, you've got Lafreniere weaving through the neutral zone, drops a pass for Vincent Trocheck. Trocheck centers back to Lafreniere. Lafreniere takes the shot. The save is made. Jimmy Vesey tries to bury the rebound. The save is made again, but the puck bounces up into the air, and just excellent hand-eye coordination by Jimmy Vesey here. He basically just takes a backhand swipe at it and bats the puck down and into the net, gives the Rangers a 3-2 lead. And of course, we all had to hold our breath because they reviewed this goal here. And when the refs are reviewing something, that's usually not good news for the New York Rangers. But in this instance, they said that the call on the ice was upheld. It's one of those things where it was close. Jimmy Vesey, after the game, even said that he didn't want to watch the replay for fear of, I guess, maybe thinking that maybe his stick might have been a little too high. It was very, very close. Could have gone either way. One of those calls, I think that the call on the ice probably has to stand here. I don't know that there's enough conclusive evidence one way or the other to, overturn it. And apparently, you know, Toronto and the officials came to the same conclusion, and the Rangers are up 3-2 at that point in the game. And let me just say also, really nice to see Jimmy Vesey getting rewarded with a spot on the second power play, getting some more ice time. You know, Hedel and Kakko are both out right now. That opens up some, you know, positions on the second power play unit. And right now, the Rangers' second power play unit looking a little bit different. They're going with Wheeler, Vesey, Brodzinski, Lafreniere, and Gustafsson. And that works for me. Brodzinski, maybe a little bit of an eyebrow raiser, but I guess give him a chance. You know, obviously he's been lighting up the Hartford Wolfpack. He was leading the AHL in points before he got called up here. And also, I want to give a shout out to Eddie on social media, on Twitter, because he came up with an idea. He kind of tweeted at me. I was tweeting during this game about, you know, what the Rangers could do with Jimmy Vesey going forward. Because obviously Vesey's hot right now. You know, he's feeling it. He's up to 5 goals. He's on pace for 20 goals. Jimmy Vesey playing on the 4th line and not getting really any power play time, at least until last night. But Eddie's idea was to possibly put him on the top line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. And we saw this last season. You know, obviously the Rangers, they had the kid line together, and so that kind of means that both Kakko and Lafreniere are not going to be in the top 6. So that created openings on the top line right wing, the second line right wing. We saw guys like Jimmy Vesey there. We saw guys like Barclay Goodrow there. And it certainly is an option to go with Vesey on the top line instead of Blake Wheeler. I would hold off on it for now just because the Rangers are 16-4-1. They're winning. And Jimmy Vesey plays more of a 4th line style game than Blake Wheeler would probably be able to play. Also, Wheeler has picked it up a little bit recently. These are not like Hall of Fame worthy numbers, but Blake Wheeler in his most recent 11 games has 2 goals and 4 assists. So he's picked it up a little bit. I would probably leave it how it is, but I'm at least open to the idea of Jimmy Vesey, if not now, then at some point, potentially getting back in there onto the top line with Mika and Kreider. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to also talk about the way the Rangers defended down the stretch in this game. I thought they were excellent in the last couple of minutes there, protecting the 1-goal lead. And also want to get to, you know, a little bit of a nap that the Rangers took in the second period. So we'll discuss that in just a second. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total upfront so you know you're getting a great deal without all those annoying hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we just want to go ahead and thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And for the everydayers, stick around. The Rangers have a back-to-back over the weekend. We're going to be breaking those games down in detail. For right now, though, definitely want to keep our attention on another thrilling, hard-earned Ranger win here. That's not to say it wasn't without, you know, some stretches of suspect play by the Rangers, but we'll get to that in just a second. First, though, want to commend them for the job that they did protecting the lead down the stretch. As we mentioned, Jimmy Vesey scored with about 4 minutes to go in this game, so the Rangers had to go to work, and they had to kill off one more Detroit power play. You had Sprong going down to the ice as he entered the Rangers zone. Trocheck kind of got his stick on Sprong's skate, and that was the second penalty of the game for Trocheck. I've said this before. It bears repeating. Love Trocheck, love his game, love what he brings to the table. Everything about what he does on the ice, except for his penchant of just taking too many penalties and taking some penalties that you just don't need to take. And, you know, this one was kind of borderline, but, I mean, his stick was on Sprong's skate. Did Sprong help it along a little bit? Did he kind of wipe out on purpose? You know, maybe he did, but regardless, you know, 2 more penalties on Trocheck in this game. Regardless, though, the Rangers are able to kill this off. Detroit goes to the power play. The Rangers win a faceoff. They clear it to the neutral zone. And Detroit got it back in. But interestingly, they didn't pull their goalie for that 6-on-4 advantage until there was only a minute and 17 seconds left. I thought they would go to that a little bit earlier because 6-on-4 is such an advantage. I know you don't want to give up the empty netter, but it was getting pretty late in this game that, for me at least, probably worth the risk to pull the goalie at that point in mind. But you got Goodrow. He fights free from his guy. clears it down the ice. And keep in mind, the Rangers are outnumbered 6-4 here. So, Goodrow didn't get all the way down the rink, but pretty deep into the neutral zone at the least. And then just excellent defense by the Rangers here. Great structure, nobody panicking. It's a tough situation, 6-on-4, but Detroit's not shooting the puck. They just keep passing around the perimeter, and I think the reason for that is a lot of the Ranger penalty killers, they were on point here. They were not allowing anything and handled this about as well as you possibly can. You had Mika out there, Lindgren, Trouba, and Kreider. They were all out there with a minute left, and then Jacob Trouba. So just some blue-collar hockey by the Ranger captain here. He goes down to the ice to block a pass. The Red Wings eventually get it back. They just keep passing. The Rangers won't give them any quality shooting lanes, any quality scoring opportunities here. And then Trouba blocks a one-timer attempt, and the puck is under Jacob Trouba. The whistle blows, and that is the 4th and 5th block of the game for Jacob Trouba. And that whistle sounded with just 6.6 seconds to go. So Detroit takes its time out, and the Rangers go with Bonino, Lindgren, Goodrow, and Trouba for these final 6 seconds here. Bonino wins the draw cleanly into the corner because, of course, he does. That's why the Rangers got this guy. You want him killing penalties, being on the ice when you've got a lead, and winning clutch faceoffs. And he does that here. Could not have won this any more clean. The Wings eventually retrieve the puck. They get it back to Seider for a shot, but Goodrow goes down and blocks it, and that's the end of the game. And like I said, it wasn't perfect all the way through, but a hard-earned win, nevertheless, for the Rangers. And we do have to call them out a little bit, the Rangers, that is, for the nap that they took for parts of the second period. The Rangers, I love their start in this game. I thought they came out flying, creating a lot of early scoring opportunities. There was a lack of finish. Kreider had a couple of chances, a couple of opportunities at some tip-in goals. One was off a pass from Mika that went off the post. Another one was him trying to clean up the loose change in the crease, and he put it wide of the post by, couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 inches. So Kreider twice there, missing 2 goals by a combined, 5 inches or so, give or take. So obviously they were coming close. Panarin had a chance on the rush that he wasn't able to finish. So they were getting a lot of opportunities in the first period. They were only up 1-0 though in the second period when they started to fall asleep a little bit. And you have Panarin called for roughing. That was in the offensive zone. And then Detroit ends up making them pay for it because the very end of the power play, the Rangers did a good job in this power play here for Detroit, but at the very end of it, you've got Seider taking a shot from pretty close to the blue line and from the center of the ice there. A lot of traffic in front of Igor, and Andrew Kopp, our old friend, he was in front of the net, but he didn't touch the puck. It got by Igor clean there, so that tied the game at 1-1. And we mentioned this briefly earlier in the episode, but again, the Rangers just not at their sharpest on the shift that follows a goal, which is so weird. Detroit scores here just 23 seconds later to take a 2-1 lead. But the reason I say it's weird is because we see the coaches change. We see even some of the players change. Obviously, the Rangers, play different systems and whatnot. But it feels like this is something of a lingering issue where the Rangers just are not at their best in the shift that follows a goal. And we saw another example of that here because Detroit, like I said, it was just 23 seconds later. You got Gustafsson behind the net. He tries to play it up the boards. Wheeler and Mika are there along the boards, but Detroit is able to dig the puck out of there. You got a short pass to Fabry, who shoots and scores from the inside of the right face-off circle. And the Rangers, they basically just got outworked on this one. There's not really any excuses. Instead of bodying their opponents like they were doing for most of this game, everybody was just kind of reaching for the puck, and it turned out to bite them. And I did like the way the Rangers responded after this. They had a couple of really nice shifts after this. The Panarin line in particular looked good, got some opportunities for the Rangers immediately after these 2 goals by Detroit. So it's good that the Rangers, despite, being in a situation here where you're kind of shell-shocked and you've given up a couple of goals just like that, and man, we're in complete control of this game, and all of a sudden we're losing. I did like the way that they fought back after this, obviously, and ultimately came away with the win, but this just can't happen. This was going to be, if this 2-1 lead had held, and this game was 2-1 for a pretty long time, this would have been a case study of basically like why you cannot allow yourself to not play a full 60 minutes. The Rangers were in a position here where they basically would have had the better of play for, 50, 55 minutes of this game, and yet they were in danger of losing this game. And if it wasn't for some heroics in the third period, they would have lost this game. So the Rangers need to be better in spots like this. You can't fall asleep in the shift that follows a goal. Giving up 2 goals in 23 seconds, you can lose a game like that, even if you largely dominate the rest of the way. The Rangers had a big edge in shots on goal, as far as I could tell. I don't have the official total on this, but as far as quality scoring opportunities, it seemed like the Rangers had a big advantage there. And again, they were in danger of losing this game. I don't want to rain on the parade too much because, again, they won the game. They were at their best when it counted. They obviously responded to some adversity, And you got Keandre Miller, Jimmy Vesey coming up big with some goals in the third period. And hey, you know what? As I mentioned, through October, through November, through more than a quarter of the season, the Rangers have still not lost consecutive games. And I'm not even like splitting regulation losses and overtime losses into two separate categories. No, the Rangers have not had two losses of any kind the entire season, and we're more than a quarter of the way through. And as a quick aside here, I've been meaning to share this stat with you guys, but I don't want to jinx anything. And I saw we were getting toward the end of November. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to hold off for a little bit here. I don't want to say anything, but if they get through November, I got to make mention of this. I got to, bring it to everybody's attention and share it here on the podcast. It's just too good of a stat and too impressive of a stat not to share on here. And, superstitions be damned. We're still going to talk about it. They are more than a quarter of the way through the season without suffering consecutive losses. Truly an amazing start to the season under any circumstances. But the fact that they have a new coach, decent amount of new players this year, and obviously a new system, and they've still had that kind of consistency. They've still played with that kind of urgency night in and night out, and they've still responded to every single loss that they've had in a positive way. Very, very impressive start to the season for the New York Rangers. There's always things they can do better. I know there's going to be certain fans that you're never happy and you got to nitpick this and nitpick that. And I understand that, there's always certain things you can critique. And like I said, there's always certain things that a team can do better. But I mean, through a quarter of the season here, if you're not happy with how the Rangers have played, how they've looked, and how it's gone so far, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't think they could really be off to a much better start than they are right now. But we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to talk about Adam Fox's grand return to the lineup, a couple of other things as well. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Wanted to talk about Adam Fox's grand return to the lineup. This was actually the first game that he was eligible to come back after the Rangers placed him on long-term injured reserve, and he indeed was back out there. All signs were pointing to Fox returning in this game. Obviously, on Monday, he was a full participant in practice, or at least that was a report coming out of Ranger camp. He was not yet eligible to return on that night, but he was back out there in this one. I saw some talk on social media about the idea of possibly leaving Erik Gustafsson on the top power play unit and moving Adam Fox to the second power play unit. Now, I can understand where those people are coming from, because Erik Gustafsson has played very well, and that power play has been clicking, firing on all cylinders, even in Adam Fox's absence. And hey, you know what? If you put a Norris winning defenseman on the second unit, then that unit also gets a boost. But I got to very respectfully disagree. Got to put Adam Fox back out there on the top power play unit. It would be one thing if the Rangers just had some guy, some defenseman who's like pretty good and a pretty good quarterback of the power play, and that guy got hurt, and then Erik Gustafsson stepped in there, and then the hypothetical defenseman we're talking about returned. You could put that guy back onto the second power play unit, but this is Adam Fox we're talking about here. This guy is one of the elite defensemen in the world. He has done nothing short of a brilliant job on the power play. Us Ranger fans, we're still getting used to the shock of having a consistently good power play the last couple of seasons here. And Adam Fox has a big hand in that. So I get the idea. I get, maybe wanting to reward Gustafsson, not at the expense of Adam Fox. I got to have Fox out there on the top power play unit. And Gustafsson, for sure, should then be on the second power play unit. And indeed he was. And the second power play unit got a good amount of ice time in this game. So Gustafsson will be just fine. And, Fox, he should be back out there right away on the top power play unit. And I'm glad that he was. As far as Adam Fox's stats in this game, no points. He was an even plus minus, 2 shots on goal, 21 minutes, 31 seconds of ice time. That was third among Ranger defensemen in terms of time on the ice. The only two who had more were Ryan Lindgren at 24-19, Jacob Trouba at 24.09. And part of the reason for that is the Rangers had to kill off a lot of penalties. And Laviolette seems to really like having Lindgren and Trouba out there when it comes to the PK, having the two of them together. And that has worked very well also because the Rangers have a great penalty kill unit. But yeah, Fox was right back out there with Ryan Lindgren. And I kind of see them as the top pairing, but it's kind of semantics whether they're listed as the top pairing or it's Miller Trouba as the top pairing. Those are your top two pairings. That's the bottom line. And then Gustafsson slides back down to the third unit, and he's out there with Braden Schneider and Zach Jones. I feel bad for him. I don't think he's played poorly. I mean, he's had a couple of games where he hasn't looked good, and the Jones Schneider pairing has been a little bit up and down, but I think for the most part, the struggles of that pairing have been at least somewhat overstated. They've also had some really good games. There was one game where they each had an assist. They both were a +3 combined and just played. That was against the Devils. Now I'm remembering. It was against the Devils, and that duo played very, very well in that game against what's obviously a dangerous Devils attack. They really stood out in a positive way in that game. So I feel for Zach Jones, but it is what it is. There's 7 deserving defensemen of being in the lineup, and there's only 6 spots. You could go on a certain night with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen if you want to, but I don't see how you can really make a case for anybody other than Zach Jones coming out of the lineup in this situation if the Rangers are going to go with their best 6 defensemen. So I feel for him. Obviously, he's got to stay ready, and he'll get another chance. Obviously, we don't want to see anybody get hurt, but the idea that all 6 of these Ranger defensemen, none of them are going to miss a game the rest of the season, that's probably not realistic. So we'll see how it goes there. But, obviously great to see Adam Fox back in the lineup. And as far as a couple of the more noticeable plays that Adam Fox made in this game, he had the Rangers on a power play. This was less than 2 minutes into the game after they were applying some pressure. Mika with a slap shot that was deflected by Kreider off the post. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. Good pressure from Panarin. Unfortunately, his shot will not go. And then you had Adam Fox, a couple of really good plays. Again, while the Rangers are on the man advantage, a couple of instances where it looks like the puck was going to go down the ice, and Adam Fox is at the blue line, and he basically just gloves it down to the ice, refuses to allow the puck to be cleared, and keeps the offensive zone possession alive on the power play. And among the many, many things that Adam Fox does very well, this is one of them. I don't think there's a defenseman in the league that's as good, especially on the power play, at preventing clears, knocking down the puck when it seems all but certain that it's going to at least make it into the neutral zone. He'll find a way to keep it in the attacking zone and keep the play alive for the Rangers. And there have been a couple of instances over the years where we see him do that, and it leads to a quality Rangers scoring chance, if not a Ranger goal. So it was awesome to see him, right back in sync there when it comes to that particular play, knocking the puck down a couple of times at the blue line and keeping the offensive zone possession alive for the Rangers. You also had on the power play, Trocheck draws a hooking penalty. This is on the rush. Mika and Panarin get some early shots here, and then Fox faked a slap shot, weaved around his guy, took a shot that was then turned aside by Husso. But Adam Fox, for the most part, I think looking really good in this game. Didn't look like somebody that was shaking off the amount of rust that a player can accumulate when they miss as many games as Adam Fox did. But overall, just a really solid night. And then in the second period, another play I wanted to highlight here. You've got Sprong powering his way to the net. And just a really nice job by Adam Fox, standing him up, taking the body, separating him from the puck. It wasn't like a bone-jarring hit or anything like that, but enough contact, once again, to knock Sprong off of the puck and, eliminate any scoring opportunity that the Red Wings were going to get in that instance. I figure we could pretty much call it there. The only other thing that I wanted to mention was that Kaapo Kakko was placed on LTIR. The Rangers have said that this is a situation where he is not out for the season, so that's obviously good news. But it does sound like, based on their comments, that the Rangers are not expecting Kaapo Kakko back in the lineup anytime soon. But let me just throw this out there, and we might talk about this in greater detail in a future episode. Could this be a blessing in disguise for Kaapo Kakko? Now, obviously, nobody wants to get hurt. He wants to be out there and contribute to his team in any way that he can. But he was off to a rough start this season. When he comes back into the lineup, is it kind of like a fresh start for him? Is it kind of a situation where you just draw a line in the sand and you say, okay, my season starts right now? Kakko, whatever happens the rest of this year, when you consider the slow start that he's off to, only the 3 points, and when you consider that he seems like he's going to miss a good chunk of games here, his stats at the end of the year are not going to be where he wants them to be. But I think in a way that almost kind of like, if you're Kaapo Kakko, it makes you let go of that. And it's just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to have the numbers that I was hoping to have, that I was expecting to have, but I can still come back and help this team. And at that point, you stop worrying so much about it. I don't know if Kakko worries about that kind of thing, but I don't know. Just the idea that he could come back with a completely clean slate and a fresh start might not be the worst thing in the world for Kaapo Kakko. And I'm sure he'd rather be out there playing right now, but I got to put something of a positive spin on this because this is a glass half full Ranger podcast after all. So yeah, that's kind of where things stand as far as Kaapo Kakko. And the only other thing I did have one more thing to mention here. Alexis Lafreniere continues to play strong hockey for the Rangers. He ends up with 2 primary assists in this game. But I tweeted this out last night, and I'll mention it again right now. The coolest thing about this to me is that we don't really need to make a big deal out of it anymore. This is just what Alexis Lafreniere does now. He's somebody that's contributing every single night. Even on nights where he doesn't get any points, he's still very noticeable. Skating hard. His skating looks so much better this year than it has in other years. Very opportunistic, and him and Panarin are really in sync, and we saw a couple examples of that in this game. But you know what? Alexis Lafreniere, 2 primary assists, including the one on the game-winning goal by Jimmy Vesey. And again, it's just kind of like, yep, that's what he does. He's somebody that isn't just giving them secondary scoring. He's somebody that in many cases is leading the way for this New York Ranger team. And he's indispensable right now. He's become just a tremendously important part of this team. Whereas in years past, it was kind of just like, well, okay, we'll take what we can get. No, he's driving the play now. And he's been one of the best Ranger players on the team the entire season. That's obviously awesome to see from Alexis Lafreniere. But figure we can call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well at LO_NY_Ranger. Once again, that's at LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.